Welcome, everyone, to Rutgers at the Voice of College Football. We've got a great show for you here tonight. I'm here with my fantastic co-host, Gabriel Pickup and Donovan Gibbs. And on this show, we're going to preview the game coming up against the Washington Huskies and talk generally about the state of the Rutgers football program. So, Gabe, Donovan, we got the Huskies coming up on Friday in Seattle. What are your thoughts?
Yes, sir. So I've got a lot of talking points, mainly about where the team is at and how we can adjust. But I was looking at Washington, right? And this is the first game this year where we are a heavy underdog. So the over-under spread is just 59.5. I think it's going to be a shootout. And then we're plus 11.5 underdogs. And we're plus 320 just to win in general. So this is the first time. Whatever, Ignacio. Man, I've already been getting it before the show. Now I'm getting it during the show.
Well,
I had a bad excursion yesterday, but in terms of Thursday, I think we might have another.
Gabe, I think before we talk about the Huskies, the audience needs to know something. And I think the audience needs to know that Gabe was attending a Philadelphia Eagles game, and on his way out of Lincoln Financial Stadium, he runs out of gas. Give me a break. He runs out of gas. Didn't plan ahead. That's the problem. You got to plan ahead. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And you got to plan for adjustments. And that's what I'm counting on for Rutgers, because that's the only way we're going to win this game or even come close is adjustments.
All right. So what are your thoughts on that game?
For me, more and more seeing how Rutgers, especially coming off of a bye week, which I'm hoping is able to just reset everything. Everybody's starting to get back into the flow of things, especially going into this week, because they're coming off of two really rough losses, one being against Iowa, where they honestly had most of that game in their control, and the same thing basically for Minnesota, where they went into a shootout with a team that's really not known for throwing the ball in the PJ Fleck offense, and Ethan Kilcamanis got honestly humbled by the new freshman quarterback in Minnesota, and going through both of those two rough losses going into a bye week really just helps being able to you're able to watch the film that you saw from last week, especially the two losses that they just went through. And now you're able to go into this game in Washington and going all the way out to Seattle, which is more and more looking like a tough place to play. And I will admit, Gabe, you honestly were right about how Washington was. I did underestimate them a little bit starting off the year. Devin Williams, I'd never underestimated him. I knew he was a really good quarterback, but just the team that Washington was going to have around him, they've been played against really good competition. They, for the most part, their defense was holding up against Ohio State at home until multiple really bad roughing the passer calls and a very, very bad pass interference call that got Ohio State into the red zone, which was able to get them to score to put that game out of reach. They just came back down 20 points against a very good Maryland team.
Yeah,
Maryland is one of the teams that, with true freshman Malik Washington, that could make some noise in the Big Ten, and now being able to come back against a team like that on the road in Maryland, down 20 points going into the fourth. That's a lot. That's a huge opponent right now for Rutgers, and for honestly just for the Rutgers season, seeing how most of the next couple of games are going to be on the road, then they're able to play at home again, and then they finish out most of the year complete opposite of how they started. The next 6 games, 4 of them are going to be on the road. So this game is going to be not only just crucial to how Rutgers is able to respond to those first 2 losses that they experienced before this bye week, but it's going to really determine how the trajectory of a potential 7-win season can go from 7 to maybe 5, 6.
No, literally. So I had on Arnav. He has his own show, and he also writes for On the Banks, and he's also a Rutgers fan. I had on Arnav last week, and the prompt was, because we weren't facing Washington, I thought, let's just make a prompt. The prompt was, are we going to win another game against are we going to win a game against the Big Ten this season? And it sounds crazy, but even that's why Maryland's keeping it close against Washington disappointed me, because Purdue is the only game we're going to be favored against. At least that's how it's looking so far. So unless Maryland has a tragic downfall, I don't know if we win another game. I mean, we should beat Purdue, but upsets happen all the time. Look at how Penn State got dismantled by UCLA. I know Adam was thrilled about that. So what do you guys think? Are we going to win another Big Ten game, let alone 2 of them?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. We were playing Iowa, and we were ahead 28-24 in the fourth quarter and lost the game 38-28. We were ahead 28-24 in the fourth quarter with about 6 minutes left against Minnesota. Lost 31-28. No pun intended, Gabe, but in both games we ran out of gas. And it also exposed weaknesses in this team, particularly on the defensive side, but also on the offensive side, because what I'm seeing is that Ethan Cali-Camanis in that offense comes out swinging, but after the first 3 series, defenses adjust, and they really don't score much after that. So I think this Washington team, like Jason O said, they're a good team, not a great team, definitely a beatable team. But if you look at, Washington last week, down 20 points, comes back and wins 24-20 over a pretty good Maryland team. Now, it's being played in Seattle, and Washington's a different team in Seattle. It's a very loud stadium. There's a lot of passion amongst those fans. I don't see us coming out with a win here. In fact, I think Washington covers the spread in a 34-17 victory.
What do you think, Donovan? Do we win, not even just against Washington, but how many Big Ten games do we win this year?
That's where I, for the most part, before the show, I was doing a lot of research and just based off of Rutgers' schedule. And that's why I'm really putting a huge emphasis on these road games. It's easier for a team, especially a team that just was built over last spring and last summer with a lot of transfers coming in and a lot of young players, to get a lot of that experience playing these type of bigger games at home. That's why the Iowa loss is still a really major loss, because that team had a lot of momentum just with how their season was looking at, especially going up and having a huge lead, having a lead against Iowa going into the fourth. Those type of losses, especially with a younger team and a team that's more full of transfers that are just still trying to find that chemistry, those are the games that really matter, especially when it's coming into conference, especially when it's against competition that is going to be difficult. A lot of their games before, Miami of Ohio, Norfolk State, the biggest amount of competition that Rutgers was facing so far this season going into that Iowa game was University of Ohio, and we saw they barely got through that game. And that's why having those experiences at home is way more vital, just to prepare you for playing on the road. That's why this Washington game on the road against a Washington team that feels like a complete flip over what happened against Ohio State, going into now being able to come back against a team like Maryland, I feel like they're not going to try to start off slow. Their number one thing going into this week is not try to put themselves in a hole, because we've seen how great Washington's offense is, especially when they have the lead. They're one of the better overall front runner teams in the FBS. Once they have a lead, they don't really give it away. And for Rutgers, the thing is, their biggest attribute so far this season has been being able to strike first. So that's why I'm really interested in seeing that matchup. And then I honestly do see them beating Purdue, and that's going to be a fun matchup as well, because I'm going to have one former teammate playing for Rutgers while I have another former teammate playing for Purdue, seeing both sides collide. One being an offensive teammate, one being a defensive line teammate. So
they're going to match up against each other a couple times.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool little thing to watch. Illinois, I feel like they could potentially upset a team like Illinois, just based off how their rosters are kind of similar in regards to just new faces in the roster, especially with a lot of transfers. But I don't see them really beating Maryland. And for the most part, depending on how Penn State is able to respond, especially knowing that they have a game against Ohio State in 2 weeks, they have another game against Indiana as well, and I completely, wholeheartedly believe that Indiana can beat Penn State.
Not for sure.
Really, I can see them putting up multiple scores against a Penn State Nittany Lions team, and I think Indiana is going to be at home for that game too. So that's why Penn State looks like a potential win for Rutgers, just depending on how Penn State is able to respond. Because seeing what Rutgers is going through, Penn State is currently going through that as well with 2 back-to-back losses. Seeing how they let that Oregon game beat them twice in a similar situation, you could say Rutgers let the Iowa game beat them twice. The thing that Iowa was able to do was throw the ball in the second half, and when it came to Minnesota, they were able to do the same exact thing, and we saw Ethan Killercommand was able to keep up with it, but still being able to fall behind and just having one mishap in regards to a turnover, this time happening from a miscalculated snap. Those type of situations eat at teams. So
Yes.
what Rutgers is going through right now, that's why I could see them possibly beating Penn State. I could possibly see them beating Purdue, and depending on what Illinois is going through, they do have a fighter's chance in a lot of these games. But with Washington right now, seeing how hot Washington is currently on the road, which is going to be a long trip, a trip to Seattle, as a person who's taking that flight is minimum 5-6 hours.
Gross.
Now,
Honestly,
on a plane.
Honestly, I can see us beating Illinois more than I can see us beating Washington. And I don't think that we'll be beating either of them, but in terms of outcomes, I see a more likely win against Illinois.
I don't see a win against either team, and I'll tell you why. Rutgers cannot sustain its performance over the 4 quarters of a game. We saw that against Iowa. We saw that against Minnesota. Now, what have we talked about on this show so many times? You got to win the little things. You got to win time of possession, the turnover battle, 4th down conversions, okay? You got to get off the field. You got to have a pass rush. You got to win on special teams. We're not winning in any of those categories. Look at our special teams. We allowed a 100-yard kickoff return against Iowa. Jay Patel has decided to no longer kick the ball. We're turning the ball over. We're losing time. When you look at all of these little things that need to go right for us to sustain a complete game and win close games, it's not happening. So I don't see a victory against Washington. I don't see a victory against Luke Altmaier and the Fighting Illini, especially after their upset of USC. Now, can we beat Purdue? Yeah, but I wouldn't take it for granted. I'm looking at a 4-8 season right now.
And I just want to, since you brought it up, Jay Patel versus Dane Pissarro. Now, this game against Minnesota, it had a very interesting end. We know the fumble lost 10 yards, and it kind of kicked us out of range. So here's my thing, and I'm very curious about this. It's kind of an open-ended question, and you guys can predict an answer. I don't know if Coach Schiano has given an answer yet. If he has, it's under my radar. But do you think that he goes with Jay Patel or Dane Pissarro, who Dane Pissarro has a bigger leg, but Jay Patel, before these past 2 games, was lights out. He was making everything from 40 yards in, but Pissarro can make up to 60 yards. He had enough distance against Minnesota. It was just wide right. So who does Schiano trust? Does he trust Patel? Does he trust Pissarro? Does he go based on the range? Does he just go with 2 different kickers?
He's absolutely going to go with Jay Patel, and I'll tell you why. Coaches build relationships with players, and over the course of time, he's built a good relationship with Jay Patel, who has largely been successful. And a coach just isn't going to ditch a player for having a couple of bad games. And I'm not so sure that Pissarro has proven himself in practice to be a better kicker. I think what Schiano is going to do is continue to go with Patel unless it's 50-plus. But regardless of that, the kind of problems that the football team is having right now go way beyond just Jay Patel. What we're seeing out of Callie Kamanis is great opening drives, and then he stalls out. I'm not sure if that's because the first 3 drives are scripted and he's comfortable with the plays, or because defenses are adjusting. We're seeing inconsistency on defense across the board, especially in the secondary. So there's some systemic problems with the team that are preventing them from the one thing that matters to winning, which is consistency. And because of that lack of consistency, I think we're going to see more of the same going forward rather than a change in the positive direction.
I don't know. Donovan, what do you think about the kicker situation?
I completely agree with Adam in regards to I see them still sticking with Jai Patel because he's not wrong. You build those relationships, especially with a player that is the record holder at Rutgers currently for most consecutive field goals made. he's used to being Mr. Reliable. We kind of saw it last year in the NFL with Justin Tucker in the Baltimore Ravens in regards to more typically accurate kicker, and now he's just going through a season where things aren't not going through that are typically chip shots for him. Jai Patel over the last 2-3 games, outside of the blocked field goal, you would think a lot of the kicks that he's missing would be easy makes. So being able to be in that situation, and now I can see them having a situation where in practice they have the kicker kind of have like a little kicker competition to kind of reignite Patel and be able to regain that confidence for him. But I don't see Shiano giving up on Patel just yet, especially this early in the season. I feel like maybe the bye week is able to wash away a little bit of that bad juju that Patel was going through over the last 2 games. But if Patel's not able to play at his best ability and be able to get points on the board for this Rutgers team, it will lay the openings for that second kicker in Minnesota that went up against Minnesota and has a bigger leg. But you don't want to give up on the guy that got you here so far.
Yeah, I feel bad for Pissarro because this is going to look really piss poor on his field goal percentage if Shiano only sends him out there for 50-plus yarders, because, like, that's usually it's a separate stat. It's like, 18 of 24, 9 of 14 from 50-plus. Usually it's 2 different stats, but for Pissarro, honestly, I was saying this on the post-game show, Rutgers, Minnesota, 2 weeks ago. It's a terrible way to start your collegiate career to be forced out there to make a 57-yard field goal to tie the game to go into overtime as a sophomore. And you're a backup probably for this week and moving forward. You just get forced out there, go tie the game against Big Ten competition. No big deal. It's the Ethan Kaliakmanis return game in Minnesota. No big deal. It's PJ Fleck versus Shiano. No big deal. So that definitely went through his head. And as far as Patel goes, it doesn't look like it's a mechanical issue. To me, with the blocked kicks, the misses on the right, it doesn't look mechanical. It looks like there's something not translating, whether it's the PK or the field goal holder, whether he is not throwing up the laces to the front, or whether there's a missed step in the stepping up to the football. It looks like there's something that's kind of like a brain fart and not necessarily his leg messing up, because we know he can still kick the football, just how consistently.
I'll tell you what it is. He is kicking the ball too low. He needs to get more height.
I agree.
Quicker. Another thing is, in addition to not winning the small stuff like time and possession, turnovers, in addition to the systemic issues on defense, our offense has become the P word, and that is predictable. Okay, we know from watching the Rutgers offense, it's either going to be handing the ball off to Antoine Raymond, who's had a great year, or he's going to throw to KJ Duff, Ian Strong, or DT Sheffield. That makes it so easy for defenses to adjust at halftime and to shut our offenses down. And if you look at the last 3 games, how many points have we scored in the second half in those games? Very few.
Let me look that up while you're in.
We're supposed to make. We're not making any.
He's not wrong, especially when it comes to Ethan's passing game. I got the stats right here currently. His best quarter of play so far throughout this entire season has been the first quarter. That's where his completion percentage has been the highest. He's had 85% completion, 468 yards throughout the first quarter so far this year, 2 TDs, 0 interceptions. So he is more efficient in the first quarter. And then once those adjustments start coming in after those first 3, possibly 4 scripted drives, you start to see a little bit of regression throughout the game. Second quarter, 52% completion. Third quarter, 62% completion. Fourth quarter, 64% completion. And then you start seeing that more turnovers are starting to happen in the second half for the Rutgers team. And just in general, we saw Iowa outscore Rutgers 17-7 in the second half. And then
same with Minnesota
kind of did the same thing as well, 17-7 in the second half. So we've seen Rutgers start to slow up, especially as defenses are starting to get more adjusted. And that really just comes down to players being able to make plays in situations where the defense has your number on regards to what type of scheme you're going to run, but can you beat me at what I'm trying to do?
Yeah, and you know what? I think the answer on offense is simply adjust at halftime. Because that I tweeted that. I said these Big Ten teams are going to adjust at halftime. Rutgers, are you willing to do the same? And they haven't adjusted at halftime at all in any of our first 5 games. But to me, we're at the stage of the season where we can try things out now, because it's not a lost season, but it's a season where you're going to learn more than you're expecting to win. I mean, look at our opponents. So to me, the answer, not even the answer, but a possible answer is why not unlock Why not unlock Wadiq Collier, who is 4th string defensive end, number 1 defensive end out of Pennsylvania. He reclassifies to this year. Our front 4 only has 2.5 sacks this season, but he didn't reclassify for nothing. At least he's going to get some pressure on the quarterback every now and then. I mean, you reclassify because you think you're going to be playing as a freshman. Why not unlock him? He's clearly good enough to be on a football team in the Big Ten, in a Power 4 conference. So I think we should try unlocking him. I mean, 2.5 sacks from our front 4 in the first 5 games is just not going to do it.
Yeah, and Gabe,
I don't know if they're going to do that, especially when it comes to a freshman. That if you're going to unlock him, they would have started unlocking him in non-conference games against FCS competition like Norfolk State. But I don't see them doing it right now, especially this later in the season. And they do have the possibility in regards to just redshirt rules at that. You're allowed to play 4 games as a redshirt. So possibly they might use him on one of these games. Possibly they might just be only saving him for the bowl game at the end of the year in this kind of similar situation that they did with KJ Duff last year against Kansas State. But I completely agree. If you're going to have a player, especially a high school prospect, reclassify to try to start their career earlier for your team, why not try to start letting it loose with that player and try to get him more acclimated to Big Ten play? Because maybe it starts to work out. Maybe Wadiq is what takes for this defense to possibly have a little bit of a jump start. But if the turning point in that situation, I would say just the opposite end would be, what if Wadiq is not able to have a lot of strong performances against that type of Big Ten competition, especially if you look at just Rutgers' schedule coming up, Washington, which has a really good offensive line, then Oregon, which is known for having a really good offensive line, one of the best offensive lines in the country at that. And then you're going up against another ranked school in the Big Ten that also has a really good offensive line. It's good for the development, but it could hurt the confidence as well.
I'm just afraid he's going to transfer. That's it. But
well,
Adam, what were you going to say?
Well, what I was going to say is, if Wadiq Collier was good enough to make an impact, I am sure
he would be playing right now. There's true freshmen playing currently,
but he probably isn't. Maybe he doesn't have the size yet, or maybe he's just not good enough yet. But when it comes to, Gabe, what you said, one thing we talked about on so many shows was the front 4 has to get pressure on the quarterback. They don't necessarily have to get 1 million sacks, but they got to disrupt the quarterback's timing. We're not doing that. And when we talk about adjustments, it's all well and good to say we should be making adjustments at the half. But my theory is we're not making adjustments because we can't make adjustments. We're going out there in the first quarter and showing teams everything we have. And there's really not many adjustments to make because our offense is basically Antoine Raymond, KJ Duff, Ian Strong when he's healthy, and DT Sheffield. There's not much more depth and much more to do. And that's a problem. And on the defensive side, I don't know if adjustments are going to help because they're so fundamentally unsound. I mean, if you looked at their zone coverage against Minnesota, basically standing around, not running to the ball, not reacting, not breaking on the ball. So I think the issues go beyond just adjustments into some really systemic issues that are causing them to be inconsistent and lose these close games.
Well, any confidence that we gave the Minnesota quarterback after he had a career game probably got destroyed against Ohio State the next week. But what do you guys say we bring in Austin? He's been waiting for a few minutes.
I won't lie. The first drive that they had against Ohio State, They got into the red zone.
They did. They did. After that, it was a bunch of crickets.
The fact that game happened right after Penn State UCLA, which I don't know if we're going to be able to talk about it that much. I do want to just put a little bit of my 2 cents in, which was
of course.
Overall insane game. Watching that in fully. Seeing Minnesota get into the red zone against Ohio State in the shoe, it I was like, oh, is it going to happen again? It felt like it was going to happen again. It felt like lightning might have struck in twice this week.
Well, Adam, as a Drew Aller hater, at least on the field, obviously we don't know him off the field. As a Drew Aller hater, I'm sure that you were happy about that outcome.
Hey, I'm all about being fair. So when it comes to the loss to UCLA, this loss is not on Drew Aller. Drew Aller single-handedly brought that team back, made some great throws in the second half. This game is on 2 things, the Penn State defense and the mindset of the team, which was defeated after that loss to Oregon, and it carried over, and they slept on UCLA and got beat.
Yeah, Austin says you must be happy, but let's bring him in. Hello, Mr. Austin.
What's up? What's up, Donovan?
Austin, I don't know if you know this, but Gabe ran out of gas after
wait. Let Austin give you a proper
That's not symbolic of Rutgers' season. Gabe should be ashamed.
Sure, I'll be ashamed, but Austin, it's been, a month since you've talked to Adam?
We have tried to help him. He runs out of gas.
See, here's the thing, Adam. Donovan has been helping Gabe plenty. Donovan, he's been a wonderful help. You had nothing to worry about. So you're good there, Adam. You're all good there. But I will say, fellas, I will say this. I know you all are kind of down on Rutgers, but you know what? How I look at this is we find out what this team is made of on Friday night. Win, lose, or draw, are they going to button up the chin straps and continue to play football, or are they just going to give it up? Because if Rutgers comes out and they continue to play hard-nosed football and find a way to win, then you got your answer. Even if they lose, but it's a competitive loss, you could say, okay, we still haven't given up on this season. And like Gabe mentioned, why not let things loose? Or Donovan or Adam, like you all three have said, let it loose. Open up the playbook. Throw some trick plays in. I mean, what do you got to lose? Because you know you're not going to play for the Big Ten championship, unfortunately. That went out the window when you lost these last 2 games. Open up the playbook. Have some fun with it. See what you learn about yourselves.
I agree with you on that, Austin, but my thing in regards to starting Radiq Collier, I'm just confused on why they would wait so late into the season when they had opportunities to start him and help build that college confidence, because he still hasn't played a game yet. It's not a situation where, like, for example, with Tennessee playing up against Mississippi State last week, and the number 1 tackle in the country came in later in the game for the Bulldogs, making his first appearance. He already came into the facilities 6'6", north of 320 pounds. He was ready.
Yeah, to be fair,
it's a difference between throwing somebody in the fire and knowing that, they're going to be able to fight, knowing that they kind of faced a similar situation when they were in high school, compared to Radiq Collier, who kind of is a lighter edge rusher going up against Big Ten tackles. You want to be able to help build that confidence up first. You want to have him play up against the Norfolk State. Maybe you want to have him play against Miami, Ohio, who has one of the weaker offensive lines in the MAC conference currently. You don't want to wait all the way until Washington, where he's playing up against a third-year Polynesian right or left tackle that's north of 300 pounds and knows how to be able to stop speed to power. That's not a situation you really want to put a young guy in so early. But I completely understand on why you would pull the trigger, but I just don't know why you would wait so later on in the year when you had an opportunity to start him so earlier on in the year against lighter competition.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but he is listed as the 4th. Hello, Adam. Selfishly taking up the whole screen. Why don't you? He is listed as the 4th stringer, unfortunately, behind Jordan Walker, Jordan Thompson, and R.J. Johnson. And then also at left, there's Bradley Weaver behind Eric O'Neill. There's Abdul Jabril Rahman. There's Kenton Edwards, who's also a freshman. So that's a lot of competition in front of him. But I will say this. Our run defense has been atrocious all year long. So maybe once they're getting past the front four, then all of a sudden it's running loose.
You say run defense. I say it's the passing defense.
I mean,
they had an Iowa team and a Minnesota team, two notoriously Big Ten teams that have a offensive I would say offensive playbook of mainly just running the ball, be able to throw deep on them consistently throughout 2 games. And that's a situation as well. You could look at the Ohio game as well, where there were some cracks in that defense, primarily in the secondary. They really bolstered up their front seven through the transfer portal and recruiting, but they didn't really focus a lot on that secondary, and that's starting to rear its ugly head more and more as the season is continuing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And one thing I noticed, especially in the Minnesota game, you're playing zone coverage in the secondary. Zone coverage does not mean that you just sit in your zone and you don't react to the ball or where the ball's going. I saw the secondary sitting there in the flat while the running back runs 15 yards, or the tight end runs 15 yards and is standing there, and nobody's reacting until the ball's thrown to him. It's like you got to anticipate. You got to be looking at the quarterback's eyes.
And Adam, I don't like saying this, but that falls on the coaching staff. Listen, the players deserve responsibility for that too, but that falls on your coaching staff, because where's the accountability at where you tell those guys, you're like, hey, you were in your zone. Why are you not reacting? You know the ball's going there. You're smart enough. Why are you not going there? And I know sometimes it's hard in real time to be like, oh, I could get there. And sometimes you can't always get there. They're not Superman. But a coach it's their job to get the players in the best situation possible. And if they're just sitting there, oh, I'll wait and I'll sit here and I'll sit down in my zone, and then they're like, oh, well, there went the ball. Oh, well. That to me puts me off.
I will say in regards to zone coverage, my bad for cutting you off right there, Adam. I just wanted to give a little bit more of a football context to it. In regards to, especially with a team like Minnesota, which going into that game, I'm guessing Rutgers' game plan was to stop the run. Being able to throw the ball as a run-heavy team, it only opens up the offense 10 times more, because now those linebackers are getting drawn by play action. And on a lot of those passes over the middle, especially for Minnesota's QB, it was due to the linebackers getting drawn up by the potential opportunity of a run. And that's when it comes to zone. Zone is able to stop a lot of things in regards to stopping your receivers, but it does slow down your opportunity of defending the run, since you're more drawn into being able to just stay in your area. So that's what I would say about the zone. But other than that, you're 100% in regards to the coaching has to be able to take accountability, because if the same group of players is not just one player, is in the entire secondary has been looking like a potential liability for this defense. It's more than just one player. It comes down to what are they being coached and what are the adjustments being made on the defensive side.
Donovan, you made a great point. And one thing I would just say briefly is, what about the safeties coming up? I mean, there's times when the safeties can be a lot more aggressive than they're being, apart from the fact that they're not giving much help to the DBs in zone coverage. But how about those safeties coming up a bit and being a little more aggressive?
The thing is, if you're going to have safeties come up in the run fit, that's really going to hurt their corners, because now there's not that much protection on the back end.
So, and you want coverage, then I mean, so it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, basically, right?
That's what it is regarding, especially football, and not having I would say a strong front four. You're putting way more pressure on your secondary to cover. That's why what Gabe was saying, Rutgers not being able to produce a lot of sacks, that's where it starts to hurt. The QB has a lot of time to read and be able to pick through and just be able to carve out zone defenses, because he's not getting a lot of pressure. For example, we just saw it on Saturday between Miami and Florida State. Carson Beck had a lot of time in the pocket, only 6 pressures against Carson Beck compared to north of, I think, 30 for Tommy Castellanos. That leads to interceptions. That leads to a faster clock for your quarterback. And that's why Minnesota was able to have a really good performance against Rutgers, especially on that secondary, because they're not really creating a pass rush.
Yeah, Donovan, you're 100% right, and Gabe has talked about that, and I've talked about that. We're banking on these transfers getting pressure on the quarterback. The reason that Tommy Castellanos couldn't do anything against Miami was because of that front four. The reason that
Ruben Baines and Akeem Mesidor.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thing with my last thing with Wadiq is my last argument, I guess, is it kind of feels like he's the secret weapon, like he's the last Jedi, so to say, and that's why I hope that redshirting him or basically throwing him to the end of the bench doesn't lead to him being in the transfer pool in a couple months.
And I want to bring this.
I hope not. I hope not.
I want to bring this up to you though, fellas, because we're talking about these safeties and corners. You know something? Adam Game, we talked about this in the offseason, the three of us, and I'm sure Donovan did as well. The safeties and corners was supposed to be what was going to be good about this defense. We were all confident. We all were sitting here saying, "Oh, it's the beef up front," as Adam likes to say. We need to worry about the beef. We got Cam Miller from Penn State, who's an all-world safety / corner, could play both positions.
He's been all right. He's not all-world so far, though. I will say
he was at Penn State.
Bo Masco, Mr. Bo knows Bo Masco. He has been by far our best cornerback so far, I think.
You know,
it's easily been him, or you could say Elam as well.
I think the problem too is that the secondary is having some confusion with the scheme, because there is no excuse for Minnesota to be running wide open. Iowa's receivers to be running wide open. It's a combination, I think, of the personnel, but I also think there's confusion on that side of the ball, which is leading to a lack of consistency and execution.
I think Shiano has to be the one calling plays defensively. It can't be Rob Smith anymore. I mean, to me, as a Jets fan, he feels like the Nathaniel Hackett of defense.
Listen, anybody who spells Rob with 2 B's should not be a defensive coordinator. All right, there's something wrong with that.
He can't even defend a second B from his name.
It's R-O-B. It's not R-O-B-B.
He can't even defend a second B from his name.
Listen, and to the whole getting pressure though, fellas. I mean, playing corner when you don't get no pressure is hard because you can only hold up in coverage for so long.
Yeah, these receivers are too fast now.
And like when you play these more mobile quarterbacks too, and Donovan, you probably know this by being in college and watching some of these mobile quarterbacks. If your defense is just trying to send in pressure and they ain't getting nowhere, they can just sit back there and dance, call their girlfriend, make a sandwich, and the corners back here are just like holding up. And eventually there's either going to be a flag thrown for holding or PI, or they're going to get like a 50-yard completion for a touchdown. And that drives is crazy.
I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said there, and that's where the issues are, especially with Adam in regards to how Rutgers is getting basically exposed in their zone coverage. Having no pass rush and having those a lot of those defenders, whether it's dropping 7, most like for Rutgers, they have been primarily been dropping 7. They haven't really been dropping 8 a lot this season outside of like 3rd and 10 plus. You're having 7 guys look at the quarterback. The thing about zone difference to man is the eyes are on the QB and being able to be in your own spot and just anticipating if a receiver is coming through on that concept to that zone in the field. Compared to man, you'll be able to just focus on that receiver. And in regards to what happened against Minnesota, no pass rush means more time that the QB is able to just look receivers open, being able to draw eyes of safeties and get them out of certain positions where they're able to throw right behind their head. And that's where a lot of the throws happened on 2 Saturdays ago. We're right behind the linebacker's head, right above a safety's head, and that's one of the situations that Rutgers is currently dealing with. And hopefully, since they've been able to have this bye week going into this game against Washington, they're most likely going to play what they've been doing against Minnesota in that zone. But due to the mobile ability of Damon Williams, I can see them really playing some man and playing with a spy as well, just to slow down that dual threat ability of Williams.
Whatever it takes, because honestly, so far this season, we've been doing nothing but allowing our opponent quarterback to play to their identity. The first 3 weeks, we get 3 scrambling quarterbacks. 2 of them run run away with like a freight train against us, and the other one has a decent first quarter, decent second quarter against us rushing. The fourth quarter against Mark Gronowski, he's a hybrid quarterback. He scores 3 rushing touchdowns and has an efficient 23 of 32 or something like that for like 300 yards. And then Drake Lindsay has the game of his life against us. So whatever it takes against Devon Williams in Washington, we have to throw him off of his identity. And we say his identity is a hybrid quarterback. We got to make him pick one or the other. And that's how we beat Washington.
The problem we're having is that Washington has a really good offensive line. And what Donovan is saying brings up this kind of quandary here. So in response to these defensive problems, do we rush 3 and drop 8? Or do we blitz more and play man? Or do we go to something like a 3-3-5? What is the answer given the problems that we have, Donovan?
Watching what Ohio and what Ohio State and what Maryland was able to do most of that game last week against Washington, they were primarily switching up those looks, and they're going at the rush 4. That's what their strong suit is. They do have a lot of talent at those edge positions, so it makes no sense to try to only just bring 3 and drop 8, especially knowing that Washington likes to run the ball. That's the primary reason why Ohio State was, for the most part, able to shut down Washington. They were not able to run the ball as efficiently against Ohio State at home, and for the most part against Maryland had their running game shut down for the first 3 quarters. So that's why they're going to try to make Devon Williams beat them with his arm. And for the most part, he was able to do that against Maryland. He wasn't able to do that against Ohio State, primarily because Caleb Downs in that defense is one of the best in the nation. You can say they're better than Miami. I can honestly have them 1A, 1B with Miami. But when it comes to Rutgers, their best option right now is being able to see if Devon Williams can beat them with his arm.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think we can stop the run, and we probably can play some man against their wideouts. But at some point, I want to see more eye discipline from the secondary, where they are breaking on the ball and anticipating throws. Right now, it seems like they're far too reactive.
The thing is, we can't rush 3 because no matter how good our secondary is, if this offensive line is otherworldly, then no matter what, Devon Williams is going to find someone open if you give him 10 seconds to throw the ball. Austin, what else you got?
A couple more things, fellas. Y'all brought up putting a spy up. Here's the thing. I'm cool with doing a spy, but you got to have the back end help with that because you're sacrificing somebody. And do you all feel like if Shiano's like, for this game, we're going to put a spy up, like, are you all concerned about that? Because I believe, and I mean this with all due respect to you all, I don't think you all could sacrifice anybody on the back end. You need every bit of help you could get back there. But you can't just let him run wild and just throw all over the yard or go up and down the field like a pinball machine. That's what concerns me. Rutgers just doesn't have the horses to do a spy like that. That's what concerns me. Like, because you have to sacrifice somebody. That spy is somebody that could be back there with them, or that middle linebacker could be playing the like run game. Instead, he's got to worry about the quarterback and watch him and say, okay, are you going this way, that way? If you get out this way, I got to go with you. That concerns me. But what do you all think?
I think the spy is either going to be Moses Walker or Dariel Jabome, and that opens up a huge gap. Considering that we're a 4-2-5 defense, we're going to become instantly a 4.5-1-5, and that's just not going to cut it. So that's my only problem with the spy. A spy would be great against. It would have been great the first 3 weeks against, and then also against Mark Gronowski. And yes, Devon Williams can run, but I think we're going to be, like you said, Donovan, forcing him to throw. And so that spy is going to open up a lot more time for him to throw.
I don't think they're going to bust out the spy so early. I feel like that's going to be more of an emergency in case break glass. It's really going to come down to if their defensive line, especially their edge rushers, are able to just keep contained. That's been one thing that if you look at the tape currently so far, I know Washington definitely in the film room today was watching game 1 against Ohio and 2 weeks ago against Iowa, and where Mark Gronowski and for the most part Parker Navarro, which if you're going to look at any QB that they've played up against so far this year that kind of represents the same type of play style that Devon Williams has, it would be Parker. Parker was able to break contain somewhat a little bit easier than what was advertised going into the year. And that's one thing where if Rutgers is able to keep contain on Demon Williams the same way that Ohio State and Maryland was able to show they can, because for the most part, if you look at talent-wise, you can compare Rutgers has talent on paper, especially at those edge positions that they just brought in through the transfer portal, and can match up with what Maryland currently has right now as well. So it's really going to come down to if they're able to keep containing, they don't have to bring out the spy.
What scares me about that first game too is, and what scares me about this next game against Washington is, you mentioned that Parker Navarro has the most similar game to Devon Williams that we've faced so far. We thought Parker Navarro coming into this game was really just like a Tim Tebow, Colin Kaepernick type of quarterback, but he threw for 239 yards, 21 of 31, 3 touchdown passes. And, their run game was good. Navarro had, again, 9 carries, 93 yards and a touchdown. Saye Bangura, their running back, 16 for 86, 5.5 per carry. But then he also found that Chase Hendricks, their wide receiver, for 9 of the 21 completions for 115 yards. And he had 2 touchdown passes to Jake Bruno, their tight end, his only 2 completions. So what scares me is if Devon Williams is a running quarterback and we're going to turn him into a hybrid and he's going to bust our ass passing the ball.
Here's the thing. I don't agree with the spy because he is not good enough to be spied. We're not playing against Jalen Milroe at Alabama. All right. Yeah. We need to come back to the F word, and it's not F-U-C-K. It is fundamentals. The problem with our defense, especially in the secondary, is lack of fundamentals, which leads to a lack of consistency. And that's, as far as containment goes, look, when we played Parker Navarro, one of the things when you're facing a mobile quarterback is you don't want to rush past the quarterback. And there was a lot of that going on. You want to stay in your lanes and keep contained. Okay, we gave him exactly what he needed. He could run through the defense, and he could also run around the defense. Mm-hmm. He's not even that good. So I think fundamentals and execution and consistency is important. Donovan, and I want to the expert here.
What you ask me?
I said you're the expert. What do you think? And then Austin, I would love to hear your thoughts.
In regards to the defense just being more fundamentally sound, I agree with you 100%. That's really been the primary issue so far this year, because a lot of their big explosive plays that they've given up on the defensive side have been coverage busts. They haven't really been in a situation outside of the one play against Iowa where the Iowa receiver made that one contested catch down the sideline near the red zone. I think it happened in the second quarter. There hasn't really been a lot of plays where they're just getting out efforted by a receiver on a potential one-on-one ball. A lot of it has just been blown coverages and just being a secondary player, a DB, not being in the spot where they're supposed to be or not rolling into the coverage the way that they were supposed to roll into. So you're 100% in regards to just having to be more fundamental down. And I was just looking at Jason's comment in regards to keeping contained. Or we talk about 2025 Rutgers. Yeah, that's going to be the name of the game right now. We just saw last week. Yeah, I know Adam said that he's not Alabama Jalen Milroe, or he's not Ole Miss Trinidad Chambliss, where he's going to run the ball frequently. But he still had 14 carries last week against a Maryland team. He was scrambling. He is a scrambling quarterback. That's why I'm saying they have to. The name of the game going into Friday night in Seattle is keeping contained.
And one thing, because these are the 2 players that, in my opinion, have gotten burnt the most so far. Still great players, but Jet Elad and Jacoby Henderson, I challenge you both to get 2 pass deflections and try to catch one of those things too and bring it back, because we need something electric on defense. Our biggest electric play on defense, in my opinion, was the bow nose interception at our red zone against Miami of Ohio. But we need some Big Ten defense. We've had some Eric O'Neal stops, some 3-and-outs. It's been nice, but we've still given up boatloads of points.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say this too, guys. 2 things real fast. Number one, Adam, to answer your question, I'm going to steal a phrase from the great coach Bill Belichick, it's be fundamentally gap sound. And what that means is do your job. Whatever gap you're supposed to be in or whatever zone you're supposed to be in, stay in it. Protect it. Don't get caught looking. Don't get caught looking. Don't be like, oh, there's my girlfriend. Nope. Pay attention to what's on the field.
Follow that advice.
Stay right. And Denzel Boston, guys, number 12 for Washington. I know we're talking about Damon Williams. Denzel Boston, guys, he is built like a tight end. He's like 235, 6'3", I think. He's built like a tight end, and he is a threat among all threats. I don't know. Forget the running quarterback, guys. Rutgers might be in trouble if they start getting that fade ball going. Because that's one thing Damon Williams loves to do, is throw Denzel Boston that fade ball. Can Rutgers prevent that?
We don't really have a secondary guy that's thick enough to stop Boston. We're going to need to double team him if he gets anywhere past 5 yards on us.
He's definitely going to be double teamed, especially in the red zone, knowing how Washington, especially over these last 2 games, a lot of the time when they get inside 20, a lot of their plays are a lot of just throwing it up to their best guy. And that's why, as you said, Denzel Boston has 4 touchdowns on the season so far, and he caught one against Maryland last week. And that's why I'm 100% on. Yeah, he's a very good contested catch specialist in my eyes. 6'4", 209 pounds. He's built, like you said, as a tight end. And that's why I really feel like going into practices this week, seeing how their defense, because for the most part, they played against big body wide receivers during camp. The person that they were guarding throughout a lot of those practices was a 6'6" wide receiver in KJ Duff. So that's why I'm not as worried for that matchup and how they're going to be able to defend that matchup, because they've been playing against receivers like that all summer.
So let me ask you this question then. One concern I've had is, why aren't we banging these receivers at the line of scrimmage and rerouting them? Why are we sitting back and letting them basically run the routes that they want to run?
I mean, the thing is, we have the firepower on offense to match up, but they have a great defense too. The most points they've given up all year is 24 points twice, and then outside of that, it's 21, 20, 10, and so they have a solid defense. They only allowed 24 against Ohio State, who they've otherwise, besides Texas, been putting up 30 and 40 every week, and so that's what worries me is one stop.
Shoot, they held Ohio State to one of their lower point totals this season.
Yeah, and if you look at Alabama's defenses under Nick Saban, those cornerbacks would hit those receivers at the line of scrimmage, jam them, and reroute them and play zone. We're not doing that. We're 5 to 7 yards behind the receivers, and they're running their intended routes unfettered completely. Why are we not jamming them at the line of scrimmage?
I think some of it is the way the refs like to throw the flags to at them for the defensive PIs. They've gotten real bad about that the last couple years, especially if they know the defense player's gotten beat. I don't know if they're just shy, if they're thinking, oh, if I touch him just enough, they're going to throw the flag at me. Because a lot of coaches now are just teaching them hey, just don't be too handsy with them. And it's just it's one of them, that's, I think, why you don't see a lot of routes get rerouted. You'll see it even with the bigger teams like Ohio State and Bama. They don't do it much anymore because they give the offensive player too much leeway. The defensive player literally cannot do anything. They just got to hope the quarterback overthrows them or he just doesn't catch it, because they always get the defensive player on that. They never get the offensive guy for pushing.
That's one thing about the offense, because the offense has been statistically one of the best offenses in the Big Ten, is I want Ethan to run less and throw the ball more, and I only want Ethan to run if the front is completely empty, because Ethan can get some yards, but he's not the fastest. He's going to get hit, and then we're going to have to force a redshirt freshman in there who had a great spring camp, and he had a great second half against Norfolk State. But I don't think he's ready for Big Ten level competition. And with Ethan, no offense, because he throws the ball like he darts it every time. No Jackson, but every time he runs the ball, he kind of looks like a duck waddling. And I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want him to get fumbled. And if it's 4th and 3, I don't want him to try to run and dive on the pylon. I don't think it's going to work.
And I will say this, too, fellas. Last thing is, before I give my score prediction, because I do want to give you all my score prediction. Another thing is, too, Jamal Williams, be out for the Mahomes like passes, the sidearms, Adam, you talk about having integrity and staying with it. Boy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten at doing that, especially when he does that sidearm. Oh, it's a thing of beauty. He even got Ohio State with it a couple times. If he starts that, then you're really in trouble. I don't know.
Yeah, that's our thumbnail picture, is Ethan doing the sidearm.
Did you ever see The Wizard of Oz? They had this character called the Tin Man. That's how Cali Jimenez runs. He's a great passer. I love the guy, but he's not a runner. But look, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm looking at Rutgers offenses, I'm saying, okay, what's my assignment this week? Shut down Antoine Raymond and cover KJ Duff, Ian, if he's healthy, and DT Sheffield. That's it. And that's
I don't see it really just stopping Antoine Raymond. I genuinely see it as make Rutgers have to beat you running the ball, because Rutgers is one of the better passing teams in the Big Ten. They're 3rd in passing yards per game, and we're going up against a Washington team that, outside of Ohio State, doesn't really give that much up in the passing. They only give up 200 yards per game through the air. So Washington is going to try to beat them physically through the air and try to shut down their receivers. So it's really going to be – I really see this game – as I originally thought, Rutgers versus Iowa was going to be more of a defensive game, and knowing my luck, it might be another instance of what we saw on Sunday between the Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks, where it's just guns blazing all game. But I genuinely see two of these. I see, at least in regards to Washington, they're not going to try to get beat on the ball.
I really think it's a shootout, man.
I agree with that.
I'll say my prediction is 35-28 Washington, and that's even underdoing the spread, because the spread, or no, it's slightly over not the spread. The over-under is 58.5.
I don't see a score in 28. I hope you're right. Well, in part, I hope you're right that we do score 28. But the question really for this week is this, Austin: will Gabe run out of gas again?
I'm running out of gas being on this show. I'll tell you that. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's
listen.
Help him.
You got too much Adam back. You know what, Adam? I'll see you in a month.
I'm very offended.
Listen, fellas. Listen. We don't need to throw jabs at one another.
Thank you.
This is not about who's going to leave who. This is a loving community.
I'm taking
we work better together than separated. I feel like this is
yes.
This is
Thank
the
you, Don.
best synergy the show has.
Gabe, you should apologize.
Yes, Gabe, I can't help it that your Knicks are going to stink this year, good buddy. But it's okay.
Wait, how are you a Knicks fan and an Eagles fan?
I'm a Jets fan first, Eagles fan second, because my family's from Philly. But I am a New York Knickerbocker fan, born and raised. And we're taking it all this year, baby.
I breathe the mile high, baby. Go Nuggets.
I am a fan of the Brooklyn Nets, and I have no interest nor opinion in regards to the basketball season this year.
Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr., they're going to be hugging each other trying to get the ball.
Michael Porter Jr. needs to stay away from microphones. He is just undoing everything every single time he's on.
Man, what do you mean? He's woke. Stay woke.
No, he is just giving out conspiracy theories and just failed dating advice.
Hey, we all need to know what not to do, Donovan. I mean, not everyone can be like Adam.
I don't know how the Denver Nuggets kept this under wraps for so long.
Yeah,
but that's my last take on it.
I'll give dating advice to the entire audience. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it's eventually going to end. That's my dating advice.
And now, fill your car up with gasoline, or if you're out of America, petro.
And you were in that, I guess, at an Eagles game of all things. That is particularly unacceptable.
Wow. Okay. We went off the rails, but anywho.
I could have used some of that air that was deflated from the Bill Belichick footballs. Converted
Good one.
But I will say this, fellas. I got Washington winning 37-17. I think
that's ugly, man. Oh, God.
I said 34-17, Austin.
So here's the thing. It's at night. It's a Washington return game from last year. I think there's a lot of emotion. And I think deep down, I think Washington remembered last year a little bit. And they were like, okay, you're coming to our building on a Friday night where it's going to be purple rain night. They're going to be in all purple. And it's going to be, they're like,
rain.
So it's going to be one of them. They're going to be like, okay, Rutgers, here's a taste of your own medicine. And we're better this time around. I think they're coming out to get you. And I think they're going to play efficient, and they're going to win this football game. And Rutgers, unfortunately, is going to look a little rough this game.
And Donovan has the Washington Huskies colors in his background, so you know how he
feels. They're scarlet red now, or they're getting there.
It's a mixture of red, blue,
and we got to be careful. We got to be careful with Donovan and Gabe. They're traitors.
Hey,
One was wearing Oregon.
They're mean to me every week, Austin. Very mean.
Adam, where's your red? Huh?
You can't call me a traitor. I've been the more positive score predictor for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights so far this year. I don't think I had them moving a lot of.
It was a running joke we had with Gabe because Gabe wore Oregon green, and we decided to mess with him. And he said it was Jets green. We're still not buying it, but that's okay. We love Gabe anyway.
It's not Oregon green, it's not Celtics green.
Gabe's like that long-lost brother you never know you needed.
I have a feeling during the Washington game, Gabe is going to call and say, I need to find a gas station. And we're going to say, not again.
No, you know what? This team needs some gasoline. It needs a fire under their ass. That's what it needs.
And I feel like that's where it's going to come this week. And as Allison said with his prediction, I honestly believe it's going to be – I don't see a 34. I feel like if Washington wins this game, they're going to be scoring at most 24 to 30 points. I don't see them scoring more than 30. But it's going to come down to how well did this bye week come for this Rutgers team. Coming off of 2 losses, being able to go into the bye week, being able to just not only recover, but able to just regroup. I'm really just sensing a lot of team building and just overall being able to hear out mistakes and be able to critique mistakes and be able to break down and build up happen over this bye week. And now they're going into game week, going into a situation that their opponent Iowa was kind of going into 2 weeks ago before. They were basically in the same boat as Washington, coming off of 3 wins, the same as Washington coming back they're coming into a win, going into their home stadium on for Rutgers it was a blackout night. For Washington is now a purple rain night where they're going to see the purple uniform or purple out basically, which is kind of cool in context overall. That would be a really cool place to play in general. But I will add that this is the opportunity for Rutgers to be able to take advantage of a bye week and show that it's not over yet. Losing 2 games while having 7 more games to go. Now you're going to be on the road, be able to go through now you got to go through the gauntlet. This is a perfect opportunity for Rutgers to take full advantage and show that all they needed was just a little bit of rest. Playing 6 straight games does alter a team, especially a team like Rutgers that's dealing with injuries. Now they're going to be able to have some players come back and be able to be more healthy. Ian Strong is going to be able to have more in the gas tank. And this is for a Rutgers team that has started off fast and started slowing down. This is an opportunity now with that extra rest to see if they're able to go 3-4 quarters because now they got more fresher legs. So my prediction for this game, I see Rutgers winning. I can really see it being 24-17 Rutgers.
Well, given that would be amazing. And I'll give you some credit because that is a rare prediction that nobody is going to have. I think, shout out Antoine Raymond. I forgot to say it, but before this past bye week, he led the nation in rushing touchdowns with 9. And Jason, you bring up a really good point because Shiano was not hired by Kelly Zinn. He was not hired by our new president. So his job is steady, but it's not safe.
Yeah, where's our president AD from? They are from LSU.
Tigers.
And LSU wins. Not going to put up with this.
So, Adam,
running out of gas either. I'm going to tell you, you got to get on these things, Gabe.
See, here's the thing, Adam. I'm going to leave you all with some parting words. Gabe, I want you to listen to this one real good. Because this was. No, so, Gabe, listen. In life, we win and lose. And it doesn't matter if you win or lose in life. Because what matters with it, Gabe, is what you decide to do with it. And, Gabe, unfortunately for you, Gabe, you had a big loss this weekend. Your Jets stink. The Eagles lost,
actually,
which is good.
The Jets being 0-4 is a good, or 0-5 is a good thing, man. We're getting that number 1 pick. We gave up on making the playoffs 2 weeks ago.
But it's not about the win. It's not about the loss, Gabe. It's what you decide to do with it, and you can take that advice, Gabe, and it'll help you.
That's what the Eagles need to hear.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid the Eagles lose their first game of 2025, you know?
Listen, I got to give you a lot of credit, though, because every person has very low moments in life. And there's really not a lower moment than seeing your team lose its undefeated record to the Broncos and then running out of gas. I mean, that combination, you know, it was a rough Sunday for Gabe. But, Austin, we're helping him. And
yes, we're helping him. And here's some more advice for Gabe. Gabe, you got knocked down Sunday.
Already, man. You don't gotta be my second counselor.
See, here, Gabe. I will be your wise man for the night. So let me help you out real fast. And Donovan and Adam, just let me fix Gabe real fast before I go. So, Gabe, listen, you lost, but it's okay. You failed. We all fail in life, Gabe. It's what you do with that failure is what counts. And what it is, Gabe, is you picked yourself back up off that horse and you're riding back in town. That's what counts, Gabe. You are becoming the man you always knew you could be. Take it from me, Gabe, a man who has had many failures in his life.
You guys,
I'm here to help you.
You guys had that game against Virginia. What happened?
It's called we don't know how to. Miller Moss might be a little worse than we thought. But,
yeah, that's true.
You know what? I'll say this, though. If Rutgers goes into overtime, they might be one of the worst overtime teams in the nation. By how much we run out of gas on the football field, no pun intended, it might get ugly if it goes to overtime with us.
Well, it may get ugly, but I have a feeling that next time Gabe goes into a gas station, instead of saying $5 of regular, he's going to say, fill it up. And if Rutgers has that same mentality against the Huskies, you never know what can happen.
Boom, segue right there.
Yes, and exactly, Gabe. If Rutgers could do it, you could do it. If Adam could do it, you could do it, Gabe. If Donovan could do it, you could do it. We all could do it. We could all get our redemption, Gabe, and it starts now. With that being said, though, yes, we're helping him one by one. With that being said, though, Gabe, the Cowboy has got a ride out of town. The anxious millennial.
I was about to drop an F-bomb on this here podcast. Oh, my God. I forgot you're a Cowboys fan. Go F yourself. No, I'm kidding.
Listen here, Gabe. The anxious millennial Cowboy is out of here, baby.
You guys dropped 37 on us with no CeeDee Lamb. Anyways. Ridiculous.
We always thank our good friend Austin for coming on the show and having a great conversation with us. And like, with everybody else, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you are, hit that like and subscribe button. Well, guys, what do you think? What's your biggest, what's the biggest thing that Rutgers needs to do this week to pull out a victory?
I will start off first and just say contain the quarterback and try to see if you're able to make Devin beat you with his arm.
Well, you went first, but you stole the words right out of my mouth because I wasn't going to say contain, but I was going to say make him pick his own poison. Do not let him do what he does best with it, which is be a jack of all trades. Make him pick an identity. That way he's predictable.
Yeah, I'm going to go with turnovers. I think we need to get some turnovers, at least 2 against Washington to win. And we'll see if that happens. But we're going to need to have some breaks go our way, and I think we're going to need 2 turnovers to pull out a victory.
Jacoby and Jet, force that pressure on your matchups. Get some pass deflections. Get an interception, man. I'm waiting. Y'all are good players.
Gotta get an interception. That's what the league look at. They want you to catch those.
Dude, everyone thought that what's his name? Not Trayvon Diggs. Was it Deron Bland who was Everyone thought Deron Bland was the best cornerback in the NFL because he had, what was it? Was it 4 pick sixes or 6?
6. He had 6
pick sixes, but his his PFF grade was not necessarily the best. But that's what they look at. And if you want to do it not for Rutgers, do it for yourself.
Well,
I rest my case in Adam language.
Go Scarlet Knights. And I got to tell you guys, great show, great discussion. And we're going to be back here on Friday night, immediately after the Washington game, to talk about what happened, why it happened, and then we're going to start previewing next week's game. So please join us here immediately after for the Washington post game, where we'll take your calls and your comments. As always, if you like that show, if you like the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Donovan, great comments tonight. Gabe, great comments. We hope to see you all back here Friday, immediately after Rutgers goes to Seattle and tries to pull out a win against the Huskies. Go Scarlet Knights.
Go Scarlet Knights. Do not ignore your odometer.
Go Scarlet Knights.
Fill up that gas tank.